we are now overjoyed to be joined on the phone by Alex Danvers herself, the inimitable Chyler Leigh. Chyler, thank you so much for calling into Superhero Insider.
Hi, good morning. It's my pleasure. What was the adjective you just used there?
I described you as inimitable.
I don't even know what that means. I hope it's a good thing.
It 100% is. It means that you cannot be duplicated.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I like that one. I'll take it. I'm sure my husband would really appreciate that as well. One of me is enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Call him that. You can really impress him later. He'll love it.
I'm gonna do that.
Chyler, we have been so enjoying this season of Supergirl, particularly from the just the fact that we've learned so much about Alex Danvers and really gotten into her character. We really didn't get a chance to get to know her all that well in season 1. So what would you say you were most itching to really explore about Alex going into this second season?
What excited me the most was, it's very similar to what you just said. It's sort of just figuring out, who she is and taking that veil off of her, that sense of responsibility and not ownership over Kara, but just that pretty much like that mothering quality that's in her, and kind of being able to have her go back to being a late 20s-something girl who hasn't had a chance to really figure out who she is. And, when they were first talking about it at the end of last season, like Andrew Kreisberg can be very coded. So a lot of times I'm not sure they trust the actors with much information. So we kind of get it after the fact. But, he was saying towards the end of last season, going, I think next season we're going to kind of explore more about Alex. And I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. And then he said, and probably sort of like more of a romantic side about, her storyline. And it actually kind of not bummed me out, but I was just like, oh, already? Like, it would be cool to see who she is on her own, like, and not having it to be, about a relationship. And then, when he explained obviously what was going to happen for this season, it was a shocker. And at the same time, I was like, wow, what a way to for everybody, Alex included, to figure out who she really is and what it looks like when she's standing on her own 2 feet. So it was exciting. It was really exciting. I was nervous and excited at the same time.
You were part of that casting process for Maggie. How did you know Floriana was right for the part?
Well, funny enough, we had already relocated. I say we as my husband and I and our kids had relocated to Vancouver, where we're filming. And so once the whole thing came out as far as like what the storyline was going to be and that we were going to be introducing this character, I knew how incredibly important it was critical to really make sure that we got this right. And I was on the same page with, Greg Berlanti and Andrew Kreisberg, Ali Adler. Like, we were all in the same mind space, just going, okay, we need to make sure that this person is really special. And so because I was up in Canada when they were going to do the casting process, I asked Greg, I said, hey, can you keep me in line with where you guys are at? And whoever you have, like, your top contenders, could you, I don't know, like send me their audition tapes or just send me something so that I can get a glimpse of who they are while I'm here. And then would you be cool with me coming down and doing a chemistry read with the girls, in California? So he's like, no problem. So he sends up the videos, and there were 3 girls, very, very talented young ladies. And my husband was actually sitting next to me, and he's like, babe, give me the laptop. I'm going to pick her. And I was like, what? He's like, no. If you're going to have a girlfriend, I'm going to pick her. And I was like, that sounds funny. And so he watched, the tapes. We had the audition scenes, one of the initial scenes where we actually meet that was in the episode. And it was awesome. And it was nerve-wracking again. I was kind of like, ooh, one of these is the one. Which door is it going to be? And Nathan saw Floriana's tape was the second one that came up, and he was like, yeah, this is your girl. And I was like, how can you be so sure? He's like, well, I mean, just the way that there's just something in her smile that it just sort of seemed like it was almost mischievous in a sense. I was like, oh, okay, I see. And so then when I flew down and met with the girls, Floriana, again, was lucky number 2. And she came in, and I was just, I mean, right off the bat, I was like, babe, you're pretty good at picking out chicks. I mean, you picked me, and then you picked my girlfriend, so that's pretty great.
He's 2
so
for 2.
He was a, yeah, I know, he did pretty good. Wait, but that, I guess that doesn't make me inimitable anymore then, huh?
That was like Finding Nemo right there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's right. I'll never get that right. I'm going to have you repeat that again.
That's fair.
So you've had so much fan reaction to this storyline of Alex coming out. What's kind of the fan reaction that stuck with you the most throughout all of this?
I think it's the gratefulness. And I'll go through specific, not encounters, but, examples here in a second. But the overall theme of what I'm getting, the response that I'm getting, is just a gratefulness from everybody in the LGBTQ community that is just saying, I'm so thankful that there's really, really, authentic representation of, a character on TV today that actually makes me feel like I've been heard and makes me feel like I'm understood and can even guide me on my own journey and go, gosh, that's exactly where I am. Or maybe this is a great example of how to speak to my family members and my friends when I'm coming out. And just, it's a journey. And again, it's like we have such a varying age range of people that I've had respond to me personally. I mean, from 12, 13 years old all the way up into, 50s and 60s. And I'm just sitting here going like, gosh, I can't imagine, as Alex being 28 and figuring this out in her life, but someone that's in their 40s and 50s and 60s and just figuring that out and kind of maybe just coming to grips with it. I mean, the struggle is so real. And in many of these cases, it's for so long that I think there is a sense of relief going like, oh, gosh, this makes so much sense. Or if they already knew it later in life, it's like, oh, wow, I have an example of how to actually accept this about myself and how to, spark a conversation with people that I really care about. And they can just sort of see that this is one way that it could go. And everybody's journey is going to be different. But at least if it's some sort of inspiration for people, I mean, that's the greatest gift we could get out of this whole thing, is just making people feel like they're worth it. And that's just a residing theme for sure.
Absolutely. Chyler Leigh joins us right now on Superhero Insider on Entertainment Weekly Radio. I'm Kyle Anderson here with Natalie Abrams. Chyler, of course, plays Alex Danvers on Supergirl. Chyler, one of the things that we've noticed this season is Alex really seems to be involved a lot more in the action sequences. She's sort of growing into her own kind of badass. And is the sort of more physical aspect of this role, was that sort of intimidating to you at all, or has that been like a whole new challenge for you?
Initially it was, yes, definitely. I mean, I had come off of being on, Grey's Anatomy for so long, and I'm just kind of that easygoing, nerdy kind of, heart on her sleeve kind of girl. And then when they called me to audition for the show, again, it's like a lot of times when you are auditioning for a pilot or a show, and if it's kind of higher profile, they give you sort of like bunk sides to read. It's just sort of that they can get an idea of who you are, your personality, and it may be, very similar to what you would actually end up filming or what would actually be in the script, but it's usually not exactly. And so when I went into audition, I was actually the very last person that they saw, and I had the sides, and I was like, oh, I can do this. She's a scientist / doctor. She's a sister. I'm like, nailed it. And so I did the scenes, and it went really great, and I walked out, and it was one of those things where just incredibly, incredibly grateful, and, I don't know if I would say lucky, but in this instance, whoa, pretty blessed in this case. I didn't actually read the script until the night before I had to make a decision if I was going to take the job. And so they sent me, Greg and Andrew and Allie sent me the script saying, like, please take a read and just, give us our thoughts. And I read it and I was just like, hold up, wait a minute. Rappelling from a helicopter. She's basically a secret underground agent who fights aliens? Wait, I thought she was the scientist. And I was like, I was very intimidated at first. And my husband, God bless that man, looks at me, he's like, babe, you got this. And, and then starting to get into the training of it, we didn't have a lot of time to really train with the martial arts, aspect of it and the gun handling. And I was just like, you know what? If I'm going to go for this, then I'm going all in, and I'm just going to, just embrace it and just kick some ass. And, it's kind of funny because I learned a lot about myself, and I guess maybe some like pent up, not aggression, but I don't know, maybe some energy in there that I didn't realize I had that has been really fun getting out. It's kind of like such a stark contrast of my personality. It's things that I want to do. It's just a lot of times things that I didn't even know that I was capable of from an action sequence kind of standpoint. But now I'm like, y'all, get out the way. I'm going to slide on my knees. I'm going to shoot this guy over here. I'm going to jump over this barrel. And like, you got 2 takes because I'm probably going to be exhausted after that. But I've got great stunt doubles. So, yeah, I've had so much fun. I really have. It's been great.
So we are going to be back in about 2 weeks now with a new episode of Supergirl. I know you got to be coy here, but is there anything you can tease of what's next for Maggie and Alex?
Well, yes. There's episode 19 is a very big episode for the both of them, just because it kind of comes to like dire circumstances where it's a situation of like a rescue. And it causes Kara and Maggie to have to rely on each other to kind of like figure out what happens to Alex. And so it's this interesting dynamic, almost of like this triangle between the three of them, but Alex doesn't really get to contribute to it. And you have to see how they work together, and you have to see how they're both fighting for the person, that they love, that they care about. And how that can take a toll if you have differing opinions and, different ways that you kill aliens. And it's just kind of, it's this really great example of how deep all of the relationships are, but it really does put Maggie and Alex to the test in a very, very great way. But it's rather dire. And, by the end of the episode, you're kind of going like, oh my God, I either need a Xanax or another glass of wine or something. But it's one of those, not that I'm, endorsing either one of those, but I would go for the wine for sure. If you're gonna watch the episode, yeah, you might want a glass.
I usually go with both. That's usually how I roll.
Okay. I didn't want to say it. I kind of heard that about you, but I wasn't going to throw it out there.
Wow, word gets around. My reputation precedes me. Chyler Leigh, thank you so much for joining us here on Superhero Insider. We have been loving this season of Supergirl. Cannot wait to see the rest of this season, and hope for the best for you and your character. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope to do this again. That's a lot of fun.
You're welcome back anytime. Chyler Leigh has
Yay!
A season pass to the show. Thanks again to Chyler Leigh for joining us here. For joining us here on Superhero Insider.